Okay.
Okay, we're on?
We're on.
All right. Okay, well, thank you to everybody that joined us on Saturday. We're doing this again, though, for your benefit, hopefully, and maybe this time we'll even do better. Who knows?
Could happen.
Who knows?
All right. So
I need your permission to share screen.
Oh yes, I will do that. Let me see here. Multiple participants share simultaneously. All right.
There we go.
All right. Is it working?
There it is.
There we go. Yay.
All right. So we're in good shape.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be. Oh, there we go.
Okay, this is the do-it-yourself version of the audiobook recording that I'm doing. I'm Betty M. Reeves. I have written these books and am presently in the process of getting them audio produced myself. I've already done these. This one has already been approved. These two, actually these three are yet to be approved, and this is the one I'm working on now. So that tells you where I am in the process.
Very good.
These are the subjects that I intend to cover in this presentation. Time and patience, we can all use some of that, but when you're doing your recording, you really need it. You need some sort of sound booth, either professional or homemade. You need to have a great microphone used for private, well, not for stage, for a more intimate level. I use a laptop only. Some people use a laptop with an e-reader. Some people use a computer in a different room, and then they will use the screen and the touch keyboard.
Yes, it's okay. You got it.
So whatever works, as long as you can see both your software that you need to see and the book that you're reading. I use ACX, which is Audio Creation Exchange, and it's an online service that once you have your book recorded, they will help you make it even better, and they will make it on sale for places. You want to have the right software. You want to be prepared, not just yourself, but the book that you're reading. You want to have more time and patience, just about the time you think you're running out. And then we will dwell mostly on the specifics for success.
Great.
Time and patience, because a learning curve is never just a straight curve or a straight line. It is a curl. There are times when you feel like that you're doing fine, and then you'll dip. And then there'll be times when you're doing fine, and then you'll come up. It just changes all the time. The sound booth. You can have a professional recording studio in a separate location that's built especially for recording audiobooks or I can't think of the word for it. Kim, what is it that all these people are doing right now?
For like blogs.
Podcast.
Podcasts, yes.
Yeah, podcasts. And they have to have a similar type of recording studio that we need.
Yes.
I chose to go with homemade, and I'm using things that are from around the house that I already had, rather than buying something special. But you can actually dedicate a portion of your house for a sound room, or even build one, as one of our viewers from Saturday said that he had done.
Yes.
And he showed it to us. He was in it as he spoke with us.
It was really
If you decide to do something that's in the backyard, be aware that there's going to be all kinds of yard outside noises, such as mowing or a dog barking.
Yes.
I tried a bedroom, didn't work. I tried a corner in that room, didn't work. So finally, I've moved to a closet that's dedicated as my sound booth. It's a 3 feet by 4.5 foot space. And I have quilts and mattresses and all kinds of things there. But you can see that I also have room for my laptop. And here is my beautiful, wonderful microphone with a small pop filter on it. This is on a boom arm that attaches to my table, which is also a self-made table. but this works for me. This is the type of microphone that I use. It's a Blue Yeti, but there are many, many different kinds. But you want to make sure that it's a voice-over, not one that would be put on a sound stage with instruments and a singing. You can make certain adjustments on it. I think that this one has 3 or 4 knobs on it, 2 on this side and 1 on the other side, or vice versa. And there are many, many different kinds of brands. You want to make sure that you have some sort of pop filter for all the and all that stuff with it we do. You want to make sure that you have headphones or earbuds, and you want to have either a mic stand. This one has one that's with it that could be on a table, or a boom arm. I found the boom arm to be better.
Okay.
Laptop only or with an e-reader. You want your laptop to be fanless, and you can split the screen so that you have on one part you would have the ebook, and one part you would have the software, or one over and one under.
Okay.
You want it fanless because you want it noiseless. Don't use printed books. Avoid that because page turning causes noises.
Mm-hmm.
And the recording studios that are set up for using a computer, most usually the computer is going to be outside of the room somewhere where it can make noise and have a fan.
Sure.
ACX, Audio Creation Exchange, they create very, very good audiobooks, and they produce massive amounts of them. They maximize sales potential by making sure that the listening experience is top-notch. That's why they have many restrictions, and you have to adhere to those different, what I said.
Yes.
It was launched by Audible, which belongs to Amazon. So, of course, your audiobooks will be on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. It takes a little bit longer to get them on iTunes, but it will be there. Other sites that sell audiobooks are listed here. 2 that were mentioned on Saturday are Premiere and SoundForge, so I added them to the bottom of the list.
That's great.
The specific requirements are there to ensure customers of a good listen. Anything that we record for ACX goes through a quality assurance, and if they reject my title for one reason or another, they will send me an email telling me exactly what it is that's not right, and they will make suggestions on how to make it better or where to go to learn how to make it better. You can get all kinds of help on the ACX homepage. The top of the homepage looks like that. You can see that my name is right here, and it tells you how many projects I have, and it will tell me if I have any messages. This is how it works. This is production resources, which includes terminology, submission requirements, and it gives you all kinds of video lessons and different resources that you can go to. You have another arrow for need help and one for search. Also, you can go on YouTube and you will find all kinds of help there. The ACX University videos are there, as well as other Audacity tips and helps and devices. After we have done this video, Kim and I can put this on YouTube if we choose to help other people who are wanting to choose whether to do the audio production themselves or to hire it done.
Right.
Can you edit out all my mistakes?
I'm not ACX.
Okay. For me, the right software, number 1, is Audacity. I choose Audacity because it's one of the ones that ACX recommends. And once you make your changes in Audacity to adhere to their requirements, then it will stay that way each time. And I had to take my Audacity off of my laptop for a reason. Then I completely uninstalled, and then later reinstalled, and my settings were still there. So it kept it in the cloud. Who knows where?
That's handy though, because
Yes.
I would never remember all of them. I'd have to start over. So
there's quite a few requirements, really. And these are other software possibilities. I know that GarageBand comes on a lot of people's different laptops or their phones, whatever. So if that's what you're used to, then by all means, use it. This is what Audacity looks like. Here at the top, this area looks exactly like what you could see on an old cassette tape player or on your CD players. So you use this button to record, and your sound goes here. And this is your track. And you can see all the up and down wavy lines, and that is showing what your voice is. Right here, this is plus and minus to make this track larger so that you can see between your words the areas that you might need to edit so that there's not any extraneous noises. And you can also make it smaller, of course. Up here at the top, it's kind of hidden here. I'm sorry about that, but this is your top menu. And on this menu, there is one right in here where the red is, sorry about that, where it says effects. You will want to remember where that is because you will be using that. Here are the requirements that they make for each file. Once you set it up though, it's there forever. I didn't have any idea what all these things meant. And I think that an electrician or someone who's done a lot of recording in music would be very familiar with these terms, but it was all a new language to me. kbps, kilobytes per second, CBR, constant bit rate, kilohertz, decibels. I don't know why the K and the A, I don't know why they've changed the capitalization on things like this, but I guess there's a reason. Maybe it was just to make it different, I don't know. And this means root. Root means square, but I still don't know what that means. So all of these things you have to set up in your Audacity. The second right software for me is the Levelator. This is Audiobook Producer's very best friend because it does so much for you, saving you a lot of time and trouble. It adjusts the audio levels in an audio wave file, making it more even. And I think that this work, it began mostly with podcasters because they would have one person and then another person, and one person might be louder and the other person softer. And if you go into the Levelator, it levels it out so that everything is more even and it just makes more sense.
Sure.
It's also very easy to use. You drag and drop your file into it and it spits out another file that's even better. And this is where you go to get it, Conversations Network.
Okay.
This is what it looks like. In fact, on the computer, it's even smaller than that. But its only instructions are right here. Drag and drop a WAV or AIF file. That's it. That's all you have to know. Isn't that simple?
That's crazy.
It is. Preparation. You must prepare yourself, but you also must prepare your book. Remove everything that doesn't make sense or won't make sense to a listener, like maps or hyperlinks, photographs. And if those things are integral to the story, then you will need to, in some way, describe it so that your listener knows what it is that you are seeing and what they should be able to envision. You want to look up proper pronunciation of names and other words, and you want to mark them in your book so that you have them. For example, today I was trying to figure out how to pronounce Moses' wife's name. Is it Zipporah or is it Zipporah or whatever it is? I've looked it up. It's a Zipporah, but I must always pronounce it that way.
Sure.
So would you if you were doing it.
Exactly.
When you also want to mark or highlight words that are spoken by characters in your book, and you need to decide how to characterize their words. Your listener can't see your facial expression or your movement of your hands, so all of your acting has to be done with your voice. Learn to do that with highs and lows and what have you. Producing an audiobook will take effort and a significant amount of time, more than what you think at first. Be kind to yourself because you will make mistakes. It's okay. Everyone is going to make them and you just need to fix them. But this is important. You want to use an intimate voice, not a presenter's or a teacher's voice, because you're not talking to a classroom and you're not on stage. You're in a small cubicle and you need to pretend that the person you're speaking to is in that little cubicle with you, closer than the recommended 6 feet. Try to record at approximately the same time each day because your voice sounds different at different times of the day.
Sure.
For example, if you answer the phone first thing in the morning, does anyone say, "Is that you?" Because you sound different. Or even late at night, you will sound different than you do in the middle of the day. Your mouth will get dry, so take care of that by having things handy that will help you. I always make sure that I have lip moisturizer. I have a dry mouth. Some of it is due to antihistamines, or anything else that you might be taking can cause a dry mouth. When you get tired, your voice will sound tired. So take breaks as often as you need to, and rest when you need to. If you can't do any more recording that day, that's fine, because your voice has got to be top notch.
Yes.
ACX is going to need all the information you could possibly give them about your life. You also need to give them all the information you can about your book titles, and that means that it needs to be the same as it is on Amazon. Now, since ACX is an Amazon company, they have access to Amazon and they can quickly look up your title. You type in your title and it goes ahead and starts looking for it on Amazon. It needs to be exactly the same as it is on Amazon. All of your information should be the same. Your cover may be a little bit different, but the rest of the information should match. They will set up their sales dashboard for you. And you can go to their home page and learn more by clicking on the menu at the top of that page. Here are their submission requirements for each file, not on how to produce the files, but on the files themselves and how to record that. That may be confusing. I may have said that in a very poor manner, but we'll go on.
I think I got it, yeah.
Okay, all right, I hope so. Each file that you are going to upload into ACX should only be one chapter or one section, and it needs to be shorter than 120 minutes. I've never read a book that had a chapter that long. I'm not sure that I would stay with a book that had a chapter more than that long. And even if it was all one big long book without chapters, you still have divisions and scene changes, and those could be on separate files also.
Yes.
Your file needs to be recorded as a mono track. I know that we all are used to stereo, but when it comes to books, you want the same sound going in both ears, so it needs to be mono track. Each one must start with a section header. You're announcing to ACX what they're coming to, or what's next. For example, you would say, opening credits, the book of Noah, written by Betty M. Reeves, narrated by Betty M. Reeves. And that's it. That's the opening credits. That's all you need to put on there. Then you might have several different sections. You might have 4, you might have 20. And I have listed some possibilities there on the page. But you could replace chapter 1 or whatever it is with your title, which is what I did. And then at the end, you're going to have your closing credits, which must have your title, the author, the narrator, who has the copyrights and when, and you'll finish by saying the end. That is a requirement. You must finish with those 2 words. That tells your listener that they have finished, and because they can't see a book to know, and it also tells ACX when you're finished. When you have recorded the book, this is, you'll have to go back and do some editing, and you must make sure that you have room tone at the very beginning or the head of your track, and at the very end or the tail of your track, and also in one other spot, and this is right here in the middle. So at the beginning, a half second of room tone at the beginning, and that should be silence. After your heading, you will have 2.5 seconds, and then you'll have the rest of your chapter or your section starting. When you have finished, you need to have 3.5 seconds at the tail end of the track, and it must be silence again. Now, this silent time, what they sometimes call room tone, should be free of extraneous sounds, such as a clicking mouth or breathing, mic self-noise, or any clicks. I know that sometimes when I move my finger on my mouse pad, I will click loudly, and it's loud enough that my microphone picks it up. And it needs to be an MP3 file. Now, when you're recording, it's going to be a wave.
Okay.
But when you export it, your final version, you will export it as an MP3 file, because an MP3 file is a lot smaller than a wave.
And once you get it recorded as a wave, then you just do, once you got it meeting all of the requirements, then you just do a save as, and then you do it .wave.
It's really an export as rather than a save.
Right.
But that's exactly right.
Okay.
It has, yeah. Everything can be done as a wave until that final version.
Okay.
Yes. Also, when you have finished with that and you think you're breathing and you're good, you're doing good, you need to take a time to do a retail audio sample of the audiobook that you've just finished. This gives your future readers a chance to pre-hear. Since they can't preview, they pre-hear. And it needs to be 5 minutes or less. You can have some fun with this. You don't have to have it be the first 5 minutes of your book. It can be a skip around a little bit to a certain extent. You might want to finish with a cliffhanger. I know that on my short children's books, my retail samples are usually about 4 minutes. And I try to end at a point that has piqued the listener's interest so that they'll buy it.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
When you're doing the retail audio sample, do you do it as another whole track? Do you re-record a section, or do you just take a snip from somewhere in the book?
What I have done is I go ahead and open a track, and I'll go ahead and open the track of the beginning part of my book.
Okay.
And I can cut and paste. So
Okay.
actually not copy. It would be copy and paste into the blank track, the parts that I want to be in there.
Okay, so you don't do a whole nother recording that you just...
Oh, no, not from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah, you can copy and paste. That's exactly right.
I just wondered about that after we talked the other day. I kind of wondered about that. So
Right. I thank you for that clarification. Yes.
That's
good point.
That's good.
Yes, it's easier. You don't have to go from scratch.
Okay, good deal. Good deal.
This is the best video that I have seen, and it's on YouTube. It's in the ACX Universities, and it is Setting Up Audacity, Part 4, Lesson 3. She has other lessons, and I've also listened to all those. But this is the one that I thought was best. And I would recommend that anyone working with Audacity or working with recording an audiobook, listen to this and watch it. Okay. It's free. It's only 15 minutes. Cool. Now, this following is notes from that video plus my own experience and what I have experienced. You want to have your microphone in front of you when you're in your recording area. At first, I had mine next to my laptop on my desk on a stand. Well, its own little stand. Then I decided that I would do better if I had a hanging boom arm, and that's what I have done since then, and the recordings are a little bit better. You want to personally maintain good posture, and you want your chin to not be up, but to be downward. So if you have your microphone on a boom and it's coming down this direction, make sure it's down far enough that it's going to pick up your sound, but still be with your right posture, and still be enough away from the laptop or your mouse that it doesn't make pick up a lot of those noises. Excuse me.
Got it.
You want to make sure that you have your book and your software both visible. And for me, it's one on one side and one on the other. On the video that I've asked you to look at, if you're interested, it has one on top and one on bottom. And it just depends on what works. Some people will have the screen, the whole laptop for their software, because they'll have an e-reader that they can use either on a stand or in their hands. Sure. Remember, record in mono. If you do happen to have stereo tracks, for example, you add sound effects, you will, when you export, you will have it force export to mono. And it works. It works just fine. I've done it, and it's not a problem. You record your narration on the mono track. When you make a mistake, you fix it. And here are 3 different possibilities for that. When you realize you made a mistake, you stop then, you delete that part, and then start recording from that part and continue. Or you either snap your fingers or click in some way, and some people actually have a little clicker that they use to mark the spot. For me, just clicking my mouth is easier than having to look, where did I put that? Or snapping my arthritic fingers, which don't work very well. And some people will stop, but they'll start a new track under it and then go from there, and then they will slide that new track to where it needs to be to cover the other one.
That's cool.
To get rid of noises and clicking sounds and all the different extraneous noises that you need to get out of your recording, you go to the top menu of the Audacity program and find Effects, and scroll down on that until you find Noise Reduction. Now, there's 2 steps here. Step 1 in noise reduction is that you need to have a few seconds of just the background noise, or actually nothing, so that they know what to filter out. So you click to get noise profile, and what I have done is I have a separate track. The separate track that I can put in, and it is nothing. It's just room noise. And then when it tells me to get the noise profile, I highlight that track and tell it get noise profile.
Cool.
Then when I go to the section in my recording that I need to fix, I will click on noise reduction again, and this step 2 comes up. And you'll see right here, this is standard. If you want to play with that and figure it out some more, you can. But for me, I just clicked residue and that okay, and it takes care of it. You have to do this quite a lot in your whole recording. There's going to be many places where you need to make corrections like this. So it works very well to use the keyboard shortcut, listed in Audacity, and it's Control-R for repeat last action. Makes it easier.
Yeah.
When you have done all of that and you think that your file is as good as it's going to get, you're going to export it as a raw wave. Here's my title. This tells me it's Book 2, Section 5, and here's the name of the chapter, Tower of Babel, and I have that it is a raw wave. I'm sending it out as a wave, and make sure this is encoding at 32-bit float. That is a requirement of ACX. Click Save, and you've got that. There'll be another screen that will come up. It's called metadata tags, but it deals with music and people who are recording music. Musicians use that, but we as authors don't need that. So click that you don't want that, or just click OK. And when it comes up, you can also tell it that you do not want to see that screen again, and then you don't have to mess with it. Next process, open the levelator. You're going to drag your raw wave file into just on top of the levelator, and it's going to improve the file. See here, it shows that it's at 22%. It'll go up to 100%, and then it'll spit out a new file, and it's called your raw output wave file, and it will be located just above your first file.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is.
That's all it takes. I mean, it doesn't take very long at all.
That's
a matter of seconds.
Wow.
You're going to take this new second file, the output wave, back to Audacity, and you're going to fix anything in it that you need to fix, because sometimes something else might show up, but you'll also see that those sound waves are all more even.
Okay.
Then you will go to, you will highlight the track by select all, and you will go to Effect, Normalize, and you need to check this first box about Remove DC Offset. You will check the Normalize Peak Amplitude box. There it is. And you want to make sure that this says -3 decibels. You do not click this box because that's about stereo, and we're doing everything mono. Click OK, and export that as your final MP3 file. Here it is, MP3. Make sure that you click constant 192 kilobytes per second quality. This doesn't matter. And your channel mode is force export to mono. This will stay the same forever until you change it yourself. Click save. That is the file that you will upload into ACX. You want to make sure that you keep the first raw file and that you keep this third file, the final file. You do not need to keep the raw output one. You can discard that one.
Okay.
Each file that you upload onto ACX has the same process. Now, you'll be finished unless you want to add sound effects or music. And Kim will tell you some about that a little bit later on.
Okay.
I do children's books, and I do some sound effects, and I do include music in mine.
Okay.
So that's what I will be doing.
Yes.
They will accept your files, and they will analyze them, and they will tell you that it'll take them about 30 business days to get it done. So expect it. I think that my first one, it was about 20 business days. This time I've sent in 3 pretty close together, and I haven't heard back yet, but I'm thinking it should be any day now. If ACX finds issues with the title, they will email you, and you'll fix it, and you resubmit it. It's as easy as that. Then your title will be prepared for distribution, and it'll be available for sale, and you'll be getting some promo copies that you can either give to friends or you can give to people who you want to review your book, your audiobook.
Yes.
Are we okay so far?
I think so.
Okay. If you plan to add music or sound effects, you're going to use this last file to do it. So you'll take that final MP3 file, put it back into Audacity. There it is. Choose your sound effects, put them on separate tracks. They will, of course, appear at the very beginning. So when you have those the way that you want them, then you will either drag them and put them where you want them, or you will copy and paste, or actually cut and paste them where you want them. For example, this is where I wanted the sound of hammering and sawing of wood. So that's what I did. I moved them over. That's not all, though. You also want them at the right dynamic level. You don't want them to overpower your voice. Your narration must come out over on top of everything else. So here is where you would find your gain. If it's in the middle, it's 0, which is where your voice was right here. But you can move this as far to the left as you need to make it soft enough to just be in the background. Same here, and any others that you would add.
Sure.
Even if you're doing a song and you have your singing here and you have your music here, you will still want to make sure that they are balanced. So use that gain control to do that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're finished, you're going to do the same thing that you did with the others. You're going to export it. But this time, instead of calling it final, I put this for myself, WSE, with sound effects. That works for me. It tells me at a glance which file it is. Everything else here remains the same. You save it. It's your 4th file. And if you're wanting to have sound included, or I should say sound effects included on your file, for ACX, that's the one that you will send them.
Okay. That's so cool.
This gives you an idea of what you will see on ACX. When you put in your audio files, they're uploaded here where it's Upload Manager. And as you're putting your files in, this will change. It'll tell you what your full production is. This full production for me is at 27 minutes, 16 seconds. Your audio files for each section of the audiobook goes in here. Credits is a file. Each section goes in individually. When you put it in, you put in your title here, the same one that you have on your recording. It needs to match.
Mm-hmm.
And then your file. I've got the title there. When you put it in, make sure that it's the correct file. Double check. Make sure. Even give it a listen so that you know for certain that that is the one that you want in there.
Mm-hmm.
If by some chance you happen to put in the wrong one, over here is where you would click on this, and the action would be to change files or delete or whatever it is that you're needing to do.
Okay.
You'll put in the rest of your files, you end with your closing credits, and then your retail audio sample will be there also. If you want an outline of this presentation, you can get it from me at my author page. It's bettymreeves-author, or you can email me here, textcredit.com, or it may be easier for you to email me at bettymreeves@gmail.com. I'll get it either of those 3 ways.
Great.
And if you have better information, I hope you'll let us know. We had some good comments on Saturday when we did this originally.
And just as a disclaimer, it was my fault that the recording did not take. Betty was all pro the whole time. It was totally me because I had inadvertently had it as automatically to record. And then when I hit record, it disabled it instead of fixed it. So that's why we're doing this again. Our exciting 2.0, I guess, what you could say.
That's right.
So I'm going to start my right here. Going to see if it will let me share my screen here. And okay. So what my experience was I hired a producer because, well, if I would go here, there we go. Because, well, first of all, my voice did not sound anything like what I wanted my main character's voice to sound like. She's a Texan too. That's about where our similarities end right there. So I knew what I wanted, and that kind of helped. When you start to produce your audiobook, as soon as you know you're going to do one, you've got some places to start. Excuse me. The main thing that you need to determine before you even start the process, if you're going to look at ACX to find a producer, you have to start by knowing who owns the rights to your book. You have to know that first. If you are an indie author, you almost certainly do own the rights to your book. If you have a contract with a small publishing house or a large publishing house, you need to check your contract, because a large press will probably already have the rights to make an audiobook for you, and it's at their discretion as to whether it gets made or not. And
would it also be at their expense then?
It would be at their expense, yes.
Okay.
But because of that, they may want to see, they may, want to have the book out for a certain period of time before they, before they even take that step. So unless you want to buy that section of your contract back, you want to make sure that you understand that going in. Also with a small press, it could be the same thing. Small presses are a little more likely to negotiate with you than a large publishing house would be. So that's something that you can look at. If you've got it with a small press, they may say you can do that. We're not paying for it, but if you want to pay for that, that's fine. So just check your contract, because you don't want to get in the middle of a recording that you don't own. And that you can't pay for. You don't want to get into a situation where you're going to mess up your contract with your publisher. Right. So that's the first thing that you want to check on. The next thing that you want to determine is your budget. ACX has different ways to pay for a production. They've got producer for hire, which actually is the per finished hour. That's a one-time cost. You hire someone, you pay them their fee, and then from that point, then you have all of the rights. Well, you split the royalties with ACX, but you don't owe the producer anymore after that. Then they also have a royalty share program, which what it does is through that, you don't pay them anything up front. You don't, once you pick a narrator, you don't pay them anything up front, but you do have to split 50-50 all your royalties. That is your share of the royalties. So ACX takes 60% of the income from your audiobook. Then the other 40% you get to yourself, or if you're doing the royalty share, you're going to split that 20-20 with your producer. Also, they have the option of royalty share plus, which is a per finished hour fee that you're going to pay up front. And then you split the royalty share. And some producers are willing to do that, more likely to do that unless you're a big name. If you are a big name, they will probably be fine. You know, if you're already a bestseller, they're probably fine to do just a straight royalty share. But a lot of them really want to do the per finished hour plus a royalty share, so they'll reduce their rate on the per finished hour. And what that does, there's a lot of reasons for and against that, but what that does for them is they can do it at a lower price up front, but they still cover their expenses right off the bat, which is, that's nice. So if you're going
Now, which did you do?
For the first book, I did the per finished hour, just because I had my budget and I just wanted to see, what I could do. When I very first, a few months ago, I had kind of dipped my toe in the water a little bit, and I did just a royalty share. I offered it just as a royalty share. This was before the whole COVID thing, and so I had just kind of offered it as a straight royalty share and just really didn't get any nibbles on that, just because the book had been out for a little while, but I'm not a New York Times bestseller yet. So, that makes a difference when a producer is looking at, okay, am I going to make a fortune doing this or not? So when I offered it per finished hour, I got several auditions. So I was really excited about that. But when you do it per finished hour, you're going to pay the producer. And I say up front, but what it is after they do all of their recording, then you pay them. You don't pay it. You don't, hey, I'm going to hire you and then send them, a couple $1,000 and then they disappear. It's you've got a contract. You will have a contract with them. So, you've got a little bit of, they're not going to just disappear on you. But you don't actually pay them until they have uploaded it to the ACX site. So that's nice. You need to be prepared when you're looking at what your budget is going to be. If your narrator is a member of SAG or AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, and I don't know what AFTRA stands for, but if they are in that union, their minimum that they can charge is $250 per hour, and that's per finished hour. Okay. And I'll talk about more about that, but that's what it's per hour when you have it. ACX rates start at $50 an hour and go up to $300, or I think the other day when I was looking, I think it was actually $350 per hour. And that's per finished hour. Okay. So you've got to, consider, when you put your book in, they ask you how many pages that you have, and they will figure on that what an average per finished hour final recording will be based on that. So an 87,500 word book may run 10 plus hours for the finished production. Okay. And that's so at the ACX span, their rates, you're spending $500 up to $3,000 and maybe even, $3,500 for that book. So you've got to consider before you say, yes, this is what I'm going to do, I want to have this, before you do that, you've got to consider, okay, so how many of these do I have to sell before I've got my return on investment? You know, you
Right.
want to make sure that you've, looking at that, have a marketing plan, be ready for that. So the pros to doing the per finished hours, you pay them once, and then you alone split your royalties with ACX. But the cons on that are that you are going to be the only one promoting your book. ACX isn't going to promote it. So you're going to pay for whatever advertising, whatever marketing that you do. You're alone are doing that. Okay, so if you go the royalty share route, and I will just say, if you're a best-selling author, you can probably get a good agreement done with a narrator for royalty share, just straight. So if you offer just a straight royalty share, you don't pay anything up front, but once it's uploaded and approved and everything, then you're going to split your portion of royalties, which would be that 40%. You're going to split that with your narrator. So they would get 20% of the royalties for your book. You get 20% of the royalties for your book, and ACX keeps 60. And they do all the technical stuff for you. They get that all done. So the pros for this is that the narrator now is going to help you promote your book. So when it's all done, you get the promo codes, but they also get the promo codes. So with my second book, I've got the same narrator. She agreed to do all of the ones in my series. But for her, so that she's making money and so that I'm making money and everything, we decided to go with a royalty share plus. So she's getting royalties, and now she's helping to promote my book. So sometimes with the royalty share, if you're not a best-selling author and you get somebody who says, yeah, I'll do it, you may have somebody that's less experienced just because they don't understand. They may not understand how much goes into it on their part. So you really need to watch out on that and make sure you're getting somebody who knows what they're doing. But if you're a best-selling author, you probably have somebody that's doing really good. So then for royalty share plus, which is what I'm doing for my second book, you're gonna, even if they're a member of the SAG union or whatever, any kind of group like that, they can reduce their fee, their upfront fee, if you do a royalty share plus, because they are figuring on getting back that royalty money, whatever they lose in the first, at the beginning, they're figuring on getting that back in the long run. So that the fee to start with that they get, that per finished hour fee, that helps them with their upfront costs. And I'll go over that in a minute too, because that's a big deal. Also, again, they help to promote your books, but the bad part is that you do still have to split the royalties. So the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to the ACX site. Now, I will tell you, there are some other audiobook sites that you can use. I have a writer friend that does Find Away Voices. She does her own, and she uses Find Away Voices, and she really loves it. But I don't have any experience with that, so I can't speak to the pros and cons of that platform. But with ACX, so what you're going to do first is you've got to create a profile for yourself, and you'll get your name and all of your author information. You're going to put your bank account information, the address of your oldest child, and all that stuff. Not really. But you're gonna fill out a questionnaire. They're going to ask you, what kind of voice are you looking for? So I knew what I wanted, that I wanted a female, an American, and and then had that she had an age. I think they ask ages or youthful or something like that. I don't know, or maturity level or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I've got a slide that tells you on that. So then after you've filled out what you're looking for in a narrator, Then you create a profile for your book. You're going to put your cover art in there. And this is a little bit different than what your regular cover art for your book is. A regular book, like my regular books, are 6x9. But what they want for your audio cover is got to be a square. So, and it's going to tell you the number of pixels that you've got to have and all of that. But it's got to match, as far as title goes, it has to match exactly. Then you're going to put your blurb on there, but you're also they also have a space for you to put kind of your elevator pitch and things like that. You're also going to fill out on that page, you're going to put what your budget is, what you're going to offer. So if you've decided that you're going to offer $50 per finished hour for your book, you are going to, you're going to put that on there. And this will go only to, when you do a search, it's going to, it's going to come up for everybody. But if somebody normally gets $250 a finished hour, they're not going to look at anything. I mean, when they're doing their search, if that's what their going rate is, then when they do a search on new titles that are available, they're not going to see your book as an option. Okay, they're only gonna see books that are in their range. So that's something that you want to consider too. If you as you're going to need to offer the details to the narrator that they're going to need. Little Black Dress is the one that I have finished and available, and I will tell you, I knew that this was going to be a challenge. I did not go with the $50 an hour because I knew that my narrator was going to have a challenge. Whoever she was, I knew that she was going to have a lot of work to do because half of my characters are American, and then half my characters are French, Russian, and British. So I knew that for her to affect those that vocalization was going to have to be a little bit more than just a straight read. And I will tell you, I did get several auditions that were just a straight read, and you could not differentiate one voice from another. And I did not consider any of those narrators just because I have just too many characters in the book, and I thought that would just be really very confusing. So my profile, as you can see, I've got a square cover of Little Black Dress up there. Then it figured, based on the pages that I entered, it figured that my estimated length was going to be 9.2 hours. My budget for this one was $100 per hour. Like I said, it's got a word count in there. It's got that I wanted language. I'm going exclusively with ACX, so I get 40% of the royalties, but it goes out to the world. Okay, so then I have to put on my reader so I can see what I wrote. So this first profile over to the side, it tells, like, the first section about this title, Every Woman's Secret Weapon is a Little Black Dress. Okay, that they took directly off the Amazon page for that book as my blurb. Okay, and so then the second one, it tells that it's fiction and it's in English, and that I wanted a female, that I wanted an adult, that I wanted the accent to be American, general American, and that I needed a versatile vocal style. That the book was a mystery and thriller, and anyway, those are just the basics of the thing. But then down here, and it does tell you what your Amazon rank is, and that day mine was not very good. But but then down below, it's got I put in here that this book is told from 4 points of view, 2 male and 2 female. So that lets them know that there are Russian, French accents, that my main character is a Texan, but there's also other, there's somebody from Arizona and someone from Georgia and someone from Nebraska. And so, that it gives them a little bit of a heads up as to what's going to be expected from them, from their reading. That just lets them, if somebody looks at it and they go, I don't think I can do that. Well, then, that just lets them know, okay, this book's not for me. And so the very first step is, after you get all of that done, you can wait for auditions, which is, that's great. Or if you want to be proactive, which you can be, but you don't have to do this, you can go and browse producers and request auditions. Okay. So you can go through and you put in the filter. You tell them what genre your book is, the gender that you want, the language and accent and all that kind of stuff. You put all that in, and then it will kick out a list of producers who have said, I can do this. And so it will give you that list, and it will just bring up that list of people, and it will also tell them what your budget is. So if once you've got that information in, if it's not going to kick out, if you're going to do it for $100 per finished hour, it's not going to give you results for somebody who doesn't do anything for less than $275. So then you can start listening to their samples, and these cute little purple arrows there, you just listen to it. It's a sample of their work that they have on their own profile page. And each producer has their own profile page. Some of them have photos of themselves, some don't, which is, that's fine, because you're listening to their voice. You don't care what they look like. So long as they meet everything in your profile. It will kick it out. So you can just listen to them and just see, and it's just really fun. It's fun to look. And then if you pick 2 or 3 of them, you can I'll send them a message and say, hey, would you consider, I listened to your sample and you're incredible, and would you consider auditioning for this book? And they may respond with, thank you very much. I can't do that right now because I'm in the middle of another project. Always stay nice, or they may say, this is, I haven't done mystery in a long time and don't really feel like doing that again, So, but what you're going to do, whether you go and browse for producers or not, you're going to have your book where once you say, okay, you're going to open your book up for auditions. You're going to check often for ACX emails, and you're going to listen to the auditions carefully. And what they're going to audition on is not just a random sample. You're going to provide a script for them. You're going to put that into your profile, just like all of that other information. You're going to put in a little script from them. And usually they want that to be less than 5 minutes. They want it to be from a couple of different places on your book, especially if you've got different characters that have different accents. Like, try to sample as many of your characters as you can so that you can hear, like I said, I've got a lot of American characters, but the other half is, a Russian. The majority of my main characters, beside, of my primary characters, besides my main characters, the majority of them are Russian, and there's 5 women that are Russian that kind of sound the same, so it's but she did a great job of differentiating their voices. And all of my Americans, you can tell the difference between the guy that's from Arizona, the guy that's from Nebraska, the guy that the nerd guy, the geek guy, or whatever you want to call it. I love the way she did his voice. It's fantastic. And so, but you can tell all the difference right away between all of those characters. So that's, And so when you get auditions, what will come up is you'll get a notice that on your dashboard that says, hey, you got an audition, new auditions, and they line them all up right here. And they're all going to read the same script that you provided for them. They are going to, like these first two just read the script and submitted it. That's all they did. The two on the bottom of this page sent me a note with it and said, hey, I think this Bethany Pearson, she did all the scenes, but she did them with microphone at different places. And so she was wondering if there was one that I liked better, you know, the version with it, you know, which scene that I liked best, this, you know, just the overall sound, so that she would know where she needed to put the microphone. She was the only one that kind of gave me that kind of message. But then if you notice at the bottom, I've got one that has two names on it. It's Darren and Christy Johnson. And they wanted to do it where he read the men's voices and she read the women's voices, and they
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was, and it was a good audition. They had well, let me just say, it's not just them. There was only one person, and it's the narrator I chose. There was only one person who read the book with the inflection, not just the accents and things, but with the inflection that I heard in my head. So had the timing. Not that I think my book is hilarious, because it's not really meant to be hilarious, but there's some jokes in there. And so, and jokes require, you know, there's some funny lines, and that requires a certain timing. And she was the only one that hit the timing every single place. And that's one of the reasons that I chose the script for audition that I did, is because I wanted to hear how people interpreted that. And so, you know, to me, when I heard her, she was the one. So when you get the messages from the producers, I would suggest listen to all of them very critically. Listen to more than one at a time, because there's a real temptation to, you hear the first one and you're like so euphoric over the fact that somebody's reading your book, and it's like, oh my goodness, can you believe it, they're reading my book and it sounds so amazing. And they're all professionals, you know, so you want to, you know, but there is that temptation. You hear the first one and you go, yes, that's it. And then, you know, and then the next day, you know, I just recommend, don't immediately send them a message saying, oh my goodness, you're fantastic, you're amazing, because you'll get another audition the next day and you'll go, oh no, they're really good too, you know. And then you start listening, and then you go, okay, well, I like this one better than that one. And you know, just it's a process of elimination.
Well, Kim, do you have a certain number of days to do this, or is there any limit?
They have it only open for audition for a certain number of days, and I really think it's like 60 days.
Oh gosh, that's plenty.
Yeah, there's more than enough time to decide. So you're not restricted to, okay, you got an audition, I have to let you know in 3 days. I mean, unless they say, hey, I only have a window, you know, they may send you a message that says, I love this, I really hope I get the job, but I only have a window of X number before I have to decide on my next project, you know. And so then, you know, kind of be respectful of that. And, you know, if you only get 1 or 2 auditions, that's fine, but look at that. And if neither one of them really, you know, just knocks it out of the park, or, you know, gives you that good feeling, then maybe that's when you might want to start looking, browsing the producers that are in your budget range too. So, but once you find the person that you are definitely, yep, this is it. Absolutely, she's perfect. Or, you know, this is the guy. There's one, I was telling my husband that there's one actor that does a lot. I mean, he's a big time actor, and it's Richard Armitage. And if you don't know who that was, he played the king on oh my goodness, the dwarf king. Is it dwarf? I think on the Return of the King. I think, but Thorin or something like that. I mean, and he does a lot of audiobooks. And I told my husband the other day, he's got a swoon voice. You know, it's not that I look at him and go, oh my goodness, but he's got this voice that when he reads, you just like, oh heavens to Betsy, you know. And so, but he reads a lot of classics. He did a few years ago when Audible was doing their Christmas freebie. He did a Dickens classic, and it was he just has this very powerful voice. And so, you know, if you have somebody that auditions, not that Richard Armitage is going to do your book, but never know. But if you have somebody that, you know, you have that kind of that has that effect on you, you know, make them an offer and sign the contract. And I did have some that were not in my price range, and that said, you know, and I'm sure a lot of it had to do with you know, with the pandemic. There were people that were at home that couldn't rely on their day job that do this as a hobby. But I did have a couple of that I was a little bit tempted to, because they said, you know, I'm usually a $2.75 per hour person, but you know, I like your story. I like the idea, and I'd be willing to do it for less if we could negotiate something maybe a little higher than what you posted, but lower than what. And I did have a couple of them that sent me that kind of message, and I was tempted. I was, but they still didn't audition quite the thing. So once you make them an offer, once they agree to it, then you sign a contract, and ACX provides the contract on their website. You go in, and there's going to be you tell them the word count. You and they've got. I cannot stress this enough. Read through the contract. This is a real legally binding contract. It is not terms and conditions. I accept, check mark box, you know, right off the bat. You've got to read the contract so that you know what you're obligated to. And this is actually the contract for my second book that it's in production right now. So it's got a different word count. So it's going to have a different per finished, you know, per finished hour.
But they do have a certain length of time that they allow you, because from August 20th, oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. So you really do want to read that. So so the 22nd for this book that I'm in production with right now, she has, for the first 15 minutes, we agreed on, and you can put in the date. I mean, they say generally 2 weeks from the time that you agree, but it can be whatever you want it to be. That you are going to do, that she's going to provide me with the first 15 minutes by the 22nd. So in a couple of days, I'll have an email from her that's got that.
Well, I was thinking, you know, it takes, mine are just children's books, but each one has taken me a couple of weeks once I got started on them. But then I got to thinking, that's including sound effects. Sure. And hers, this is just narration, so that's a little bit easier, faster process, I guess. Not easier, but faster.
Yes. And so, and then also, and she told me, because I was willing to give her, you know, longer than September 1st, but she said, now that I've got this figured out, she goes, just September 1st, I should have it with no problem. But I also know that, you know, during the first book, she had a close relative pass away. And so we had to extend our contract a little bit. So really the main thing is you want to communicate with them. Just, you know what's going on. Yeah. So Once we did the contract, then I sent a PDF of the book exactly as it's published. You can't change anything, or anything like that. You send it exactly as it's published. And then you send notes about each character that they're going to need to know so that they can personify that person exactly the way that you want. Okay. And so she sent me a questionnaire that said she wanted the age, the accent, where they're from, the attitude, and their attributes, things that are like snap judgments. If you're going to look at them, this is how you would describe them in 3 words. Okay. And then she also said, hey, do you have a dream cast? If so, who would those actors be? Okay. And so anything else that comes up that would be, the important later in the book that might not be right at the beginning, but the things that they need to know, you want to make sure that you include that. So after she sent me that questionnaire, I provided her with a couple of PDFs that have the pictures of the, if I was going to cast this today, with the exception on the second page, the little black and white picture you can see is Robert Morley, and he passed away in like 1980, so not him. But if I was going to cast this today, these are the people that would be that I would say, oh yeah, she's the perfect Evan, and he's the perfect Teo, and like that. So she's got an idea of what she needs to do. She can look these people up on IMDb or whatever, and get clips from their movies if she wanted to, that kind of thing. So now you wait, and they will do the first 15 minutes. Now that does not mean that it's going to be the absolute chapter 1, here we go. And it can be 15 minutes. It can be a little under, it can be a little over. It's whatever they want to send you. But they are going to choose something that, just like you chose the script, that would have the different character voices in it. So they are going to choose what they kind of like their best to send to you, to give you an idea of what they're doing, how they're characterizing, with the accents that they are giving to your cast. And this lets you know if they're doing what you want them to do. It's the way that she can say, okay, this is the voice that I've given to Evan. Is this okay? These are the voices that I've given to all of your different characters. Is this what you want it to be?
Now, is all this communication done? Do you ever speak with this person actually, or is it all done through messages?
You can, like, we've exchanged phone numbers, and I have told her if she wants to call me, that's absolutely great and fine. But mostly we've done texting, but we also do, anytime that there's an important thing, and I'll mention this again later, but anytime that there's an important thing, like, for instance, with the death in her family, and we had to adjust the dates on the contract. You don't go in and change the contract. You go through the ACX message board, and you just say, she says, hey, can we, she puts it in an official, even though she texted me and said, hey, is it okay? This is what happened. And so, there may be a delay. And I said, it's absolutely fine. But then we have to go into the message board, and she officially asks for an extension on the contract due date. And I officially say, yeah, that's okay. And that just lets ACX know, so that she's not in trouble for not uploading it on the time that it says on the contract. So, that gets all of that information into the right hands officially.
Okay.
But most of the stuff that we did some through email. When she sent the first 15 minutes, she emailed it to me. And I was out of town. I didn't have my regular computer, so I just listened on my phone. And so there's just a lot of communication that way, that we text or that I, email back. But I will tell you, up until that first 15 minutes, because you're the one who wrote the book. The author is kind of in charge of everything. As soon as you approve that first 15, they are now in charge. So, you know, if you want to make sure that all of the main characters' names are pronounced correctly. So you try really hard to give them that information up front. Again, that's another one of those things. You try to give that information up front. But especially if it's not something that they can easily look up. You know, there's certain, especially with Russian names, there's certain names that you can look up really easily. And then there's other names that are a little harder to find online. You know, anything that's hard, difficult to find online, you make sure that they have what you expect that pronunciation to be. And you need to, as an author, make sure that that's like really right. You can't just say, oh, you know, randomly, oh, I like this name, boom, this is how you pronounce it, if it's not. You know, if I've got a character whose name is Sergey, and that's how I wanted it pronounced. But there's, you know, if somebody was to say Sergey or something like that, you know, you want to make sure that it's right. So anyway, so that's, I'm sorry, I'm I'm getting a call on my phone. So, so once you approve that first 15 minutes and you click it on ACX, this is approved. Once you do that, they are now the directors. Okay, so they're the producer, they are the directors, they have creative control. Now they are still obligated to read the book exactly as you wrote it. But all of the artistic direction is now theirs. So, you know, anything that you want tweaked, you do that before you approve the first 15. And then after you do that, again, they are going to record the whole book. And they're going to go through exactly the process that Betty, that you know, said. They're going to make sure that they've got their equipment, their studio is all set up. And some of them may have to go and record at a studio, you know, and pay those fees. That's why if you're doing a royalty share and you're not a bestseller, you may have someone who is not necessarily able to afford a studio, you know, a studio time, and those fees. So you know, you could be getting somebody who's trying to record, you know, with the blanket pulled over their head. So you want to make sure that you're getting quality, that they have either built a good studio or whatever, or that they're paying for one. So you're gonna, they're gonna record, they are going to edit, which involves software and the time to learn the software. They are going to proof it, which usually means they are going to hire someone for a service, to have fresh eyes on it. And that they are going to,
just like we as authors choose an editor.
Yes. And you want them to do that, you know, so that's why if you're paying someone $50 per finished hour, I mean, they may be spending 10 for every finished hour. They're probably spending at least, you know, a minimum of 5 to 10 hours to getting it perfect.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's you want to be fair to them. So they're going to correct, which means that they're going to go back in and re-record, or, you know, because they're going to get all the way through. And even if they pick up some mistakes on the way and they, you know, fix those as they go, they're still you're going to get to the end, and there's still going to be that little, oh, you know, at this point, you know, I called him by the wrong name, or, you know, there's always going to be that, just like we do as when we're writing, you know, sometimes we leave out a the or sometimes we add in. And so they, you know, they're going to correct that. They're going to go through, after their proofer, or even if they do it themselves, they're going to read it with the right in front of them and listen to it and make sure that what they're hearing matches exactly what's on that page. Because that, you know, if it's not on the page exactly.
Okay, now what happens if your producer sees an error in your writing?
Okay, so, and this is something to let them know up front. let them know that you're an indie writer. And so
Yes.
you have the ability to fix if you see something. Now, it is not their job, but you can let them know ahead of time. And if they see something that is wrong, you can have them, call you and say, hey, you have the word was in here twice. And, was, and that's not right. So I'm going to read it correctly, but you need to know it's on page 102,
Good.
fourth paragraph. Now, they are not obligated to do that. But more than likely they will let you know. And then you can go back in and go, ooh, page 102, I need to take that out. And
Well, I found a would, W-O-U-L-D, where I should have will, W-I-L-L.
yeah, I was going to say, and sometimes that just happens because, again, no matter how many people look at it, there's always something that is going to sneak by. But this just gives you that extra little, one more gatekeeper for your process, and it just makes your book better all the way through. So they're going to correct that, and then they're going to master it. And again, they're going to use that Levelator or another program that is, equally, they're going to find something like that. And from all the people that I've heard, Levelator is that's the software to use. So kind of no matter whatever else they use, they'll use that Levelator. So
Good.
So they're going to do all of that. They're going to understand all those hertz and decibels and all that. That's their job to know all of that. So the big question is, how long does it take? So you're going to communicate. I encourage my narrator, anytime there's a question or if she's got a delay, just text me, and I know that I can text her at any time and say, hey, is everything okay? Just checking in. And she does the same. So, just communicate as often as you can. Another thing to remember is life happens to them just like it does to you. So if you have a death in the family, I encourage you to, give them grace, because there's things that happen, and the golden rule is very applicable to this. You really want to make sure that you're treating them like you'd want to be treated. So the message board, like I said before, anytime that you have a milestone, something that's in your contract that maybe has to be adjusted, again, you don't change the contract. You go in here on this message board, and you can send it directly like this. As you can see on mine, most of them are from ACX. So I updated my bank account information, so they let me know, okay, we got this done. But down here, the fifth or sixth one down is Lillian Wouters, and that's her message to me. So anytime that I communicate to her, she'll get a message through this board. Anytime she does for me, then I'll get the message. And so this is how ACX just tracks the progress on everything and makes sure that everything's getting done, and that somebody's not just out here foundering while their producer is in Tahiti or something, I guess. I don't know. I've never heard of anything that would, that would just be crazy like this. When the narrator's finished, they will upload the book to ACX. You'll get an email prompting you to approve each file. And I'll show you what that looks like. You want to listen all the way through with a copy of your book in hand. You want to check for mistakes. You want to check for weird sounds. I mean, because, something may have slipped by them that they just didn't catch, a gurgle or a click or something that, you just aren't sure what that is. So each thing, again, it's going to show the opening credits, and it's got the, that little section. And as you see to the right of the progress bar, it's got the play arrow, but then you've got the progress bar that goes across there. As you see to the right of that, you've got 0000. And so, but like it says opening credits length 13 seconds. And then, you know, dedication is 8 seconds. But then you've got chapter 1, 6, what is that? No, 5 minutes, 33 seconds. So as you go through, if you do hear a mistake, or you do hear weird noise, or all of a sudden something just doesn't sound right, if you will go, as you're listening to it, hit pause immediately when you hear it, or back it up a couple of seconds and go through and make sure that you heard it yourself and that it's not just your computer, because that's one thing I did have a couple of times. I listened, you know, something caught my attention. I went, well, that's kind of weird. And I backed it up and listened to it again, and there was nothing there. And so it was my computer that I was hearing something weird, and it was just a, you know, a little surge or something, you know, weird. So just back up and make sure that what you're hearing is really on the recording, but then get that timestamp so that, you know, write down, okay, at 00:16, you said the floor, but what it should be is the foot. And so, you know, and just make that makes it so much easier for them. They can say, oh, wow, I said the wrong word, and they can just go back in and fix it. And I will tell you, I gave my little list of fixes to Lillian, and she had all the corrections done the same day. I mean, within hours, she had it all done and fixed, and it was amazing. And what was so amazing was I could not even tell where she had, you know, that there had been any repair. It just went so smoothly. It was, but really and truly, don't say, oh, somewhere in the middle of chapter 16, you said this, because if chapter 16 is 8 minutes long, you know, somewhere in the middle could be anywhere from 2 minutes into, you know, it's right. You don't want to do that. Don't make them work harder than they have to. They're already, you know. So if there is a mistake, you go through, you make the technical corrections, wrong words, wrong pronunciations. And now, if you've already approved the way they pronounce a character's name, you can't go back and change it. That's not fair to ask them to do that, because you've already approved that. But one of the words, oh, I can't remember exactly. She had said a word and pronounced it wrong. And she's very young, so it may not have even been a word that she was really familiar with. But I found the word, you know, heard it, and I said, so I sent it back to her and I said, hey, this word is pronounced and it rhymes with this word. So, you know, it would be something that would be an easy fix. She fixed it. You listen. You can only request changes twice. That's part of the contract. So you want to make sure that you get them all. So I listened fully. I listened all the way through my audiobook twice. But several sections I listened to many more times than that, just to make sure of what I was getting and make sure that the mistake was that it was an actual her error and not just my computer. And so when you get all approved and you confirm and everything's good, this is you have approved the final thing. You send it in, and they're going to give you the information. And they're going to say, okay, you need to pay them. And once we get this confirmed that you've actually paid them, because they're not going to do anything until you actually pay them. So you approve everything and you pay them. Once they confirm with ACX that they got your money, then it will go to quality, what is it called? The QA. Quality assurance. Yes, quality assurance. I know Q is quality.
This one I remembered for once.
But that's when they send it through, and they're going to start their checks. And like you said, 30 business days. It may take less than that. It may take, but I think with mine, it took about 11 or 12 business days. It went through really, really fast. So I was very impressed.
Good.
it's going to go through quality control. It's going to go through all of that process and it's going to make sure that it sounds beautiful. It sounds exactly what you want it to be. They're going to use a fine tooth comb over every kilobyte, whichever one it
They're
is.
pretty picky.
They're going to be really picky, and you want them to be really, really picky.
Really do. Yeah.
Because it's just like on your book. You don't want to put out a book that could have been written by a 4th grader. You want your book to be as perfect as it can be. And so they're going to do that. So then you're going to get a thing that says, hey, you know, it's approved, and then if they kick anything back, they're going to kick it to the producer first if it's something that they can fix, and then they'll let you know when you get it, and they send it back and they say, hey, it's available, and it's going to be available on Audible first, and then on Amazon, and then on iTunes, and again, takes a few more days on iTunes than anywhere else. But ACX sets the price. You have absolutely no control on that. It's determined by the length of the book. So, you know, whatever they say, that's what it is. And then you will get promotion codes, promo codes, and maybe your producer will too if you're doing a royalty share or royalty share plus. And they give you 25 codes for the US and 25 codes that are good in the UK. And so once you hit 100 qualified sales of your book, you can request more promo codes for the marketplace that hits that 100 sales. So, you know, share those codes, get out there. They're free copies of the book, but you can request people to review. You can send it to people that you know will review. And it's one thing to send it to your friends, and that's all great. But I would put a special disclaimer. Hey, I'm sending you this free book. You know, please, please, please review this.
I thought the way that you worded the one that I got, I thought it was well worded.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I can't remember how I did.
Well, you know, it was whatever it was that you were telling me. Anyway, the way it was worded was really nice. I think it's on your maybe it's on your website. That's
maybe so. And I try really hard to ask, you know, please offer a review and make it honest. If you don't like it, please be honest, but be kind about how, you know, don't say, ugh, I threw up after I read this book. So I went on at my producer's request when we very first started this. She suggested that I go and join a Facebook group that's called Indie, and then parentheses, ACX and others, narrators and authors page. And it's just a big Facebook page forum that different narrators can gripe or celebrate or offer advice, just like any other Facebook group. You know how we all kind of have to have a place where other people who understand our pain, you know, how they can share that.
That's right.
So I went on that for a while. I've been on that for a while, and I've been trying to keep track of some different things that they're constantly either griping about or celebrating over, but things that they wish that authors knew, that narrators wish that authors knew. They would love it if we would read our books out loud a lot before we publish, so that we can take out really, really hard to say words. And if they're hard to say words, even if the words are not that hard to say, if you've got it in a phrase that you can't possibly, you know, it turns into a tongue twister just trying to say it.
Right.
You know, like, consider revising that, because, you know, some things you can read really easy on paper, but then when you try to say it out loud, it's like, just doesn't work. Another thing that they wish that we would do is use fewer attribution tags. Said is the most common that they like that, because the word said, you know, Hedge said, Evan said, all of those kind of disappear as they're reading, unless after every phrase, after every line of dialogue, it says, so-and-so said, and then it becomes, if you've got 20 of those on a page, that's a lot of saids. And not that they want you to say they surmised or they, that
said usually works really well.
Right.
If you don't use it too often.
But if you can do it in a different way to where you're not having to put a tag on at all, if you can say, a line that Mary says, only then, what is this? What are we looking at here in this situation? Mary crossed the room and, beat on the table or, whatever. That's terrible, but but something like that, so that that it's Mary that's talking and not somebody else. Anytime that you can do that to where they don't have to say said, that just it makes your writing better, first of all, but it makes it easier for them to do. It makes it easier on the listener too, so they're not saying, Mary said, then Joanna said, then so you want to also have really authentic sounding dialogue, because they, if it's really contrived sounding, they can only do so much. If on a page, if you're putting a whole bunch of information, that's not a great situation. So you're going to want to put yourself in your narrator's shoes and have a little empathy for them. Again, don't put something in the book on page 250 that is relevant on page 1. You can do that in the book, but you need to make sure that your narrator knows it, because they don't want to get to page 250 or in book 3 of a series. They don't want to get into that and realize, oh, this guy that I've been reading for 3 books is supposed to be British, and I've been reading him American the whole time. So you want to make sure that anything that is like that's to, you give them a heads up right off the bat. Also understand that a 10-hour book will probably take them close to 100 hours to professionally produce, to sound really, really fabulous. And so if you're paying them $100 an hour for a finished book, $100 for 10 finished hours, that really translates into about $10 an hour. So for an author to understand, what that per finished hour translates into is really important, because you don't want to make something ridiculously hard and then expect them to do it for nothing. Because it's really hard. And especially if you've got a lot of accents, or you've got a lot of, crazy characterizations, they're acting their heinies off, and you want to make sure that they're getting compensated for that. You don't want to just say, you don't expect them to do it for nothing. So I think that that's really important. It's just to know kind of what they're looking at, same as what you would be looking at. And so I've included the sample. This is my narrator. Her name is Lillian Wouters, and she, Little Black Dress is actually the first novel that she's narrated. She's a teacher at University of California, Irvine, and she teaches. She teaches vocal acting, I believe. So she's amazing, and I know that at one point she is going to be really super famous, and so I feel very fortunate to have her doing my first book, and that she's doing all 3 books in my series. She's gonna, she's already agreed to that up front. So, and that's something that I feel is really important. If you do have a series, before you negotiate a contract with a narrator, please, 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 for your reader's sake, I listen to a lot of books. And so for your reader's sake, I really encourage you to get even if it's just a verbal agreement, that they'll commit to doing all of them in a series. But here's a little sample that she did for me. And so I'm going to play this real quick, and let's see if I can do it. Let's do it. Oh, no, no. Okay, apparently I gotta be smarter than the thing. Well, will it do it?
I click on it again.
Okay, there we go. Maybe it's not gonna do it. Hang on.
Well, it did the other day.
I know. Okay, so
Bring it up again.
yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go here and see if I can do it. And it's got to, I know it has to be in this.
Okay. Now on the, yeah, click on that.
Anton Hrevik is a fashion designer. I hardly think he has anything to do with international espionage, Ramos said. My sister loves his boots. She has a jar on her desk labeled House of Alexei for all her extra change. Evan listened to Hedge Parker's briefing while studying her new teammates. Ramos was chiseled and handsome, in his late 20s, bronzed and brooding. He seemed excited about the assignment and obviously respected Hedge. Braun was slightly shorter, maybe 5'8" or 9. He had a square jaw set with a grimace that made her wonder if he were chewing gum. His hair was short and light brown, with a wave that seemed uncontrollable. Evan guessed he was in his mid-30s, but his gaze roamed over her figure like a teenager ogling a girly magazine. She dealt with plenty of men like him and knew how to handle herself. She crossed her legs away from him. And then her partner of the last 3.5 years, Rowan Kirk. He was in his early 50s, tall, with a narrow frame and silver white hair. Like her daddy, Kirk kept her safe. Reliable, funny, he was her anchor in the field, and she trusted him with her life. Evan focused on Hedge. He was going to be a challenge. Everything she'd heard about him, all business, aggressive, intimidating, all seemed to ring true. But she detected a softer side when he spoke to her and to Agent McKinnon Gray. There had certainly been something between them at one time. Maybe there still was. He had a military air about him, like her dad. He stood eye to eye with her, literally and figuratively. She enjoyed being pushed to match his strength.
Okay, so that's it.
You know, when we read books, we
Anton Hrevik is a fashion
sorry,
designer.
whoops. I was not supposed to do that.
okay,
Okay, stop. Okay.
there we go. When we read books, we picture characters in our minds. And then when it comes on television or in movies, I either approve or disapprove of that. That's kind of what we have to do with narrating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It really is. Because you know, you can imagine, like with Evan's voice, I had always kind of just pictured Bryce Dallas Howard as Evan. You know, she's always got she's cute and spunky, but she also has that, you know, don't mess with me kind of an air about her. And so so it was really hard when I would get these auditions, and I had you know, a dozen auditions, and I'm listening going, well, she sounds nothing like Bryce Dallas Howard. It's like, well, of course she doesn't. Well, Bryce Dallas Howard sounds like that. And so, you know, so it was really kind of funny until I heard Lillian's voice. I was like, you know, she was the first one that just read it with all of the inflection. She put the jokes in that had the timing for the jokes exactly right, and she's just amazing. So and she's really funny because I've got both of my female point of view characters. One is Evan, who's the main character, and then one is Elle, who is she's from Georgia, but she is a very take charge business woman. And so it was really funny because, you know, every audition that I had did the Texas accent as Southern, you know, and in all fairness, I do not say where she's from in Texas. She actually, I think it says in the book that she's from she lived in several different cities growing up. And so, anything Dallas and South, they have much more of a Southern Texas drawl than we have here. I think we've got the Panhandle has its own little special Texas thing. And so, but she did it as Southern, and Lillian does it with a little more Southern than what I would be used to. But she does her Georgia accent. It's very Southern. So you can, even when they're speaking to each other, you can differentiate which woman is, providing which line. And it was impressive. It was, she just kind of blew me away. So I'm just kind of a little bit in love with her, a little bit.
That's good.
So it was fun. But I think kind of with what I learned too is, and I negotiated with the second book, I'm paying her more money because I know she was so good at communicating what she had to do with each thing, through each step. She was very, she said, hey, got to hire somebody to do this for me because I just didn't realize, how big of a deal this was going to be. And, she said, I don't want you to pay me any more money, but this is kind of adding a step that I didn't realize was here. So, so when we got to the second book, I offered her more money, and she actually, what I offered her, she actually came back with a lower price per finished hour and asked for and
the royalty share. That's good.
So
that's good.
And we now follow each other on Instagram. So I know, when she was like, when she got the contract done, she immediately was like, woohoo, look. And she was putting the cover of my book out. And she was like, and all of her friends were like, oh, I'll have to read it. That's going to be
That's
great.
good.
I knew right from the get-go that she was going to be promoting it as much as I was. So I was really, for me, knowing that she's going to do that, the royalty share is completely worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah.
So.
I hear what you're saying. Surely do.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody who watches this video, and I'll apologize again for not being tech savvy enough to know that I was disabling the recording.
It's okay.
Making it work.
It's okay.
But I think we got in everything that we kind of covered the other day. But
I think so.
But if anybody does have any questions for Betty or for myself, just let us know. Give us a shout. My email is kim@kimblack.net. And is that right? Yeah, that's right. Kim@kimblack.net. And you can request the slideshow and all that stuff, and I'll have that available. And Betty's going to have her outlines and everything at bettymreeves.
Yes, and we'll have this video. And will it be on the Texas High Plains Riders?
Yes, I'll put it on our website, but I will also, and I will put it on, I'll put it on our website, and I'll put it on the Facebook page too. But then, and I'll send you a copy too. So if there's any place you want to post it.
Good, thank you.
And because I will probably also post it on my YouTube channel. I only have a couple of videos on mine, so I figure at some point I should probably do more. But if I just keep unrecording, it's not going to work out so well.
You've got it figured out now.
Yeah, got it now. So
it's good.
Well, thank you all so much, and thanks, Betty, for sharing your wisdom. You've got.
Thank you, Kim, for letting me share this with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, anytime. So I just thank you, and
I'll work with you anytime.
Oh, me too. Same goes.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, thank y'all so much, and I appreciate you listening. Thanks.